Hey class, we are going to try to polish up our color pencil skills, so get your 12 set out and ready to go. Someone left this one on the table, so if you're missing a color pencil set, this is probably yours. There will be extras out as usual, so you can choose your monochrome with any color you like. I am going to use the blue violet, and since it is monochromatic, I could put a little bit of this blue in there. Now, if I added any green, it would become analogous, all right, or yellow. Yellow and blue make green. So this is just to polish up your skills. We're going to dive deeper into color pencil. So let's examine the best practices on how to do this. Okay, we're not hatching. I want to see you hold your pencil overhand or whichever way you feel comfortable in establishing a firm grip, not like you're writing, but going in circles. Okay, so I'm holding it from the back, going in circles. So just trying to be gentle with the tip of the pencil, really, because if I hold it firmer, then the tip might chip off because I just sharpened it. So I am starting very light, and I'm not the neatest when it comes to edges, so if you need to put a piece of paper there, then do it, okay? I'm going to just try my best. Trying not to go outside the lines. Now if there's anything underneath your paper, then you might have some issues with texture falling down. I'm going to put something underneath my paper to hopefully prevent that. Maybe you can use your sketchbook. Alright, so we know that value is something that's gradual, and if you have an issue with the flakes coming off, just remove them. I do have chamois that you can use to burnish color pencil. I will try to leave some of those out for you guys, but this assignment is for Friday when I'm not here, and maybe in the future we might do something similar to this when I am. So this is just good extra practice. Okay, this is a regular printer paper. This does not have a tooth. There's nothing fancy about this paper. It is somewhat of a tooth, but not very much compared to drawing paper. Alright, so our goal here is to use color pencils. It's not like graphite where you can take your sticky eraser and lighten it up. And notice the angle of my pencil. I'm not using the tip. I'm using the side. I'm at like a 60-degree angle, give or take. Alright, so we're just getting warmed up here. This scale is, a little bit long. When I made this page on the computer, it's hard to gauge it. So let's see if we can slowly fade it out. And remember, when you get down to the end, you're just like a little feather barely touching the paper. We're trying to practice control here. I am going fast because I don't want my video to be a million years long. So if you feel like I'm going fast, I want you to pause, rewind, and take your time. Okay, so I'm going to darken up a little bit down here. Now I do like to layer multiple colors. This is just one blue. I could put some more layers of this one on here, but I am kind of eager to get to this other blue over here, okay? Because we can go back and forth, And sometimes I do like to tone down my monochromes by taking the dark brown. This is very important. Might as well. We probably should have done this first, now looking back. Because some of you guys that might be a little heavy-handed, this might be kind of odd to add in at this point, but let's see what happens. This is just darkening my darkest blue, essentially, and I'm going to fade it out. Okay, so brown is a great neutral that will give you a wider range of values. Do y'all see how that's really getting dark there? There are other ways we can make things dark as well, but this is how we are going to begin with monochrome. Okay, and I could fade it out to the end. Now keep in mind that this is without the brown, it's pure saturation, and with the brown, it's reducing the intensity of the color, which is very important when you're trying to make something have shadows. it's not really oversaturated in real life. Things are much duller in real life than we imagine on paper. So this is you guys just practicing blending two different blues. I'm not pressing very hard, so you want to kind of think of this as like transparent sheets of glass that are laying over. You're just layering, layering, layering. So I'm looking for all the little inconsistent spots, really we're just increasing our awareness on, where the inconsistent areas are. It's all about being smooth and consistent and cleaning what's underneath our paper so we don't have dark spots. Pencil shavings are not my friend. If you do big projects that are, more serious, I will have your paper taped to a clean construction paper board so that nothing can interfere. When blending with color pencils, it's very important to go back and forth between your colors. So now I'm going to go back to the blue violet. So I did do blue violet first, but you can really do brown first, and then this true blue, and then I'm going back to the blue violet. So we are about 7 minutes in, and I have gone pretty fast. So I would expect this to take you guys like minimum like 10 or 15 minutes if you're taking your time, because I'm going for, overall video length here. If you really like color pencil, we would probably start this off with a gradient and marker underneath it, just to really get the bases down so that we don't have to add so many layers of pencil. So if you are interested in those types of things, I will provide those for you. I could spend a little bit more time transitioning here, but I'm going to show you complementary blending next because I'm short on time. But you are going to take your time and do this all class period. All right, I'm going to sharpen my complementary reds and greens. Now, there are multiple sets of complementary. I think this is a good one to start with because yellow and violet, those are great, but yellow is a little bit transparent and you really got to have your violets down really nice in order to get those yellows to blend. These are good. Orange and blue are another complementary set that we will examine later. Okay, so this is going to be a green scale. So I'm going to start with red. So if you're not listening to my instructions or reading the subtitles, then you probably think this is going to be a red scale, but hopefully you're paying attention to instructions, okay? So this is going to be my darker end of the green. So I'm going to add more red. If you're ever absent, you can recreate this sheet in your sketchbook or on a spare sheet of paper, and then I also will try to put a downloadable link to a PDF in the website. Okay, so just a basic, nice base of red, and I will add more layers of red. This is just my first one. So now my first layer of green. And I can see spots that I missed with the red because I'm getting lots of green. That will give us more opportunity to blend another coat with the red to create our darker green end of the scale. So we do have another green. This is the grass green. There is a lighter green that we can add into this color equation. When you're trying to go lighter, always hold from the back. Gives you more control over, or I would say less control, so you have to go lighter, but more control over light values. Can't really press hard when you're holding it from the back. So I'm going to stop with that right there, and then I'm going to go into my brighter green. So by creating the red going all the way across, you really see I've lowered the saturation here, sharpening my, what is this, apple green. Okay, starting on the opposite end of the spectrum. If you get done with the sphere below, I'm letting you guys do the blend of your choice there between the three. Then you can look up like a pear or other objects or an apple and practice other blending. Other like colors, like yellow apple or like a golden apple, green apple, red apple. So by blending in small circles, it's, you're mixing, you're really blending them in. So I always describe it as like cake batter. We don't want our cake batter to be lumpy. So we are blending in small circles to get all of the lumps out. Alright, so we have our dark to light. I'm going to add some more layers here. And then analogous, that's going to be fun. You can do analogous warm, you can do analogous cool. So I am going to choose analogous warm just because I feel like this one is very cool. And then you can really play around with, other forms of analogous. Maybe we'll take a dive through, let's see, analogous red to red orange. Well, I guess you could start red violet to red to orange. If you add yellow to that, it's going to start turning into a rainbow. Or I guess full spectrum rather than a triad of analogous blending. Okay, so we don't want to, we see all these little parts right here, and I know that smudging can be prevented by burnishing with a chamois. So the chamois cloths look like this. So before you get to all the powder on there, usually I'll loan you one of these cloths that kind of feel like suede, and you can blend and smooth it out. Okay, it does kind of bring off a little bit of pigment, but it's okay. It just smooths it out a little bit. I could add a few more layers to this, and you could too, but for time's sake, school's almost out. I got to get this done. I want you guys to take your time while I explain all of this to you, but you do your best. Okay, so analogous, I think that it would be nice if I saved the analogous warm for the sphere, and then I did blue violet to red, violet, and red. And you could consider, violet to red, violet to red. That's analogous. But I do want to add a little bit of orange onto the end of it, just for fun. Okay, it's a nice spectrum. Anything that's neighbors on the color wheel can be analogous. Okay, so I have to be very careful because I can't go all the way across like I did before. I've got to leave room for my triple. So I'm going to be very gentle with how I apply this and how close it gets to the next area and how it transitions to the next color. So I'm putting on a really thin layer of violet. So this is the violet. I will encourage you to write your color formulas in, and I'll explain what that is in just a second. Okay, so I want it to be a true violet on the end. And then I want some room to go to red violet. So I've got to quickly end this transition from dark to light. Okay, now I'm going to experiment with, and I say experiment because we don't know if we need more violet. Most likely we do. So I've got to go over it with the violet and blend and layer again. That's why it's called color pencil layering, because we are learning to properly layer. These are not, pencils that we want to grind them down on the paper. We want to layer very gradually. We don't want them to get super waxy. Alright, so I'm going to go back to my violet so I can have a nice transition into my red. Remember, I am going as fast as I can, and as an instructor, that is just how I'm going to work through this video, but I want you to pause and take your time. I do not expect you to work at this pace because it's maximum speed for me during a lesson, and I would never go this fast if I were teaching you. It's just that it's a video. Okay, back over with the red again. Gotta pull these pigments through slowly, by layer by layer. Okay, so this is going to be red zone here, red orange here, so I'm not going to put it on super thick, and then fade it into orange, okay? Probably need to blend that a little bit more, but let's see what happens when we add some orange on top. They say analogous colors are harmonious and pleasing to the eye and often found in nature, like sunsets. This makes me think of a sunset or like a hummingbird. If you look at the color slideshow that's in one of the color days coming up, you'll see some images like that describe analogous colors. Okay, so here we have our analogous spectrum coming across. Let's see, looks like we need some more violet. Use your best judgment in your transition areas. We want this to be smooth and clean. I would like to blend some more orange going across, maybe some more red going into the orange from the red zone. Okay, I think we get the point here. It's fun to try to make it as perfect as possible. Okay, so on this one, let's see what you can come up with. I am going to do my shadow and blue, and this might take longer if I go analogous. Let's see. Sometimes you don't need green when you're doing analogous because yellow and blue make green. So we can see what happens. On the weave on the bottom, I really just want to see you, building your value skills, staying in the lines. You can do all different colors going in different directions, but think of it, this is a weave, it's overlapping. So where it's going to touch another one, it's going to get darker. So kind of reminds me of birthday or Christmas present ribbon, the way that you shade ribbons, from dark to light. It's like this is shimmery woven fabric, or we're really just creating a lot of depth. So try your best to stay in the lines, and then you can fade it the lightest value all the way across. And if you want to keep it all monochromatic or play around with analogous colors, let's go ahead and sharpen this yellow so I can do my sphere with it. We're at 21 minutes, so if you guys are doing this lesson, I would think this would take you like almost half the class if you're really taking your time and you've done your daily doodle. So look what happens when I add yellow into that highlight area going back. With this blue-violet, it's a blue-violet, so it's going to make this dark kind of funky green. So that's where, layering our other colors could be nice. So you can experiment at the bottom with different color blends, what happens when you blend them together. Now remember, nothing's going to happen all in one layer. So maybe I'll go over this with my green, and I have not resharpened. You will have less control if you do not resharpen, because the tip is irregular and it creates irregular shading. So I've got to work a little bit harder to get into all those cracks. So it will be much smoother and look much nicer if you resharpen. Okay, so there's a big difference. So look at the other side. I can go all the way across consistently without worrying and get a more consistent blend. Okay, so I'll go back and try and fix that over here where I had lumpy unsharpened pencil. And there's all sorts of additional colors that come in larger Prisma sets, like this light aqua. If you're responsible and do not sharpen them in the shading sharpener and sharpen them with the hand sharpeners and borrow them off my desk, you can use some of these brilliant colors that are a little bit like intermediate and from different color families. You can borrow them off my desk and bring them back, okay? There's the like lavender colors. There's a couple of lighter pinks. There's fluorescent. There's chartreuse. There's all these colors that you can borrow to do the bottom of the weave, okay? So let's start on I'm running my pencil along this for muscle memory, and it's probably smart to do this with a regular pencil, so if we make a mistake, we can fix it. Remember how light it gets out here? And on the printout, that looks like a little white hole. We really don't want that, so just keep that in mind for gradual shading. And this is just an intro to sphere shading, because next week we will be doing a lot more sphere shading and skin tones, okay? So if you want to start off with a simple scale here, you can do that. And it looks like my shadow got a little bit wide here. It doesn't really taper as quickly as it should. And with color pencil, it's kind of a one-shot deal. You can try and erase it, but in this tutorial, I'm not going to. I'm just going to elongate it a little bit and give it that point that it needs. But let's begin. There's a highlight here, so look at this band of shadows. Like if I were to lightly map it out, like very lightly map it out, our darkest point is over here. Fade, 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 fade. Remember, we're working in layers. This is the darkest part. We want our highlight to not look like a hole. I know it looks that way because of the copier. And then typically we don't even want a outline here, but I couldn't really avoid that unless I white it out or something before copying it for you. And I sent it straight to the printer, so I'm just going to go right across. Right, remember layers are important, so I'm going to stop right there, and I'm going analogous. If you want to keep this monochromatic and go with the blue that you feel comfortable with, it's probably going to be a little bit more challenging to make it analogous. So just a little FYI. Alright, I'm going to switch back to my dark blue to do another layer. And I want to first go through the highlight with my lighter green and see what happens. I could use yellow there, but I don't want to overuse the yellow and make it look awkward. So let's see what happens when we mix the apple green in with the mid-tone. So mid-tone areas kind of float around. And there's a large graphite sphere lesson that's really similar to this type of highlight mid-tone shadow arrangement. We have not done it yet, just because it's a lot to do. So if you need extra graphite shading, that sphere a few days back with the steps is probably something that you could use. Okay, so getting pretty close to calling this one done. Sometimes knowing when to stop is a skill in itself. So we've got reflective light, highlight, cast shadow. I'm tempted to put the yellow on here, but I don't want it to get crazy. I just really like color. I mean, that's okay. A little bit of yellow, it looks okay in the video. I'm not like super excited about it. Adding the yellow into lighter parts. It's nice. I'm curious your thoughts. Sometimes it's nice to go through and blend because it's like similar to that apple green, but then if you put too much pressure, it can look really awkward, and if you're not burnishing in these little circles. I don't know. What do you think? Did you like it before without it? Do you like it now? Should we make it less yellow? What are your thoughts? This is practice for you guys. I'm just adding more layers because it's like incomplete. I would like to darken the base of the shadow. So I'm really just pulling through higher contrast here. This is the green. So I started with the blue. Okay. And this is PC 933, and then I added this green, which is 909. And then I really think you could get away with stopping with this one. This is PC 912. I think that's plenty, really, for that. The yellow's a bit much, so the more I add, the more I'm going to have to add to bring the contrast out. Okay, so I'm going to pause because there's a phone call. Okay, I'm back. Let's see, adding more. I really feel that like the yellow kind of threw off the contrast, and I've got to enhance everything. Okay. And maybe it needed more layers. Alright, we're going to call this one done. And I'm really kind of examining the shape of everything and the shadow and just minor things. Okay, I'm going to stop now. Now over here, let's zoom out and look at what we have so far. We've got the complementary. This is the blue violet. Oops, PC, what does it say, 933? And we have PC 903. This one was PC 909. That stands for Prismacolor, 909. And don't forget we started with the red, 924. And then our fancy little apple green, 912. Violet, 932. And then red, 924. There's a lot of different Prismacolors, so this way there's no confusion on which orange, which red, and which violet we use. 918. Okay. And then the weave, this is part 2. I want you to just have a little bit of fun here and practice your layering and shading in these confined areas that fade lighter towards the middle. Try different blends and experiment. Really show me that you put some effort into improving your skills, because we have a lot of Prisma stuff that we're going to do soon. So I want you to have a lot of practice. All right, so various directions, different blends, and work on this for the remainder of class, and I will collect it when I get back. Most important thing in the whole wide world is put your name, please, okay?